Most guitarists try to sound better by playing faster, learning more scales, or cramming in more theory. But after teaching guitar for 18 years, the players who impress the most aren't always the ones who know the most theory or can shred the fastest. It all comes down to rhythm, how dynamics, note length, and timing interact, creating that undeniable edge that makes people stop and listen. So in this video, I'll share the exact things I teach my clients about rhythm, so that people actually want to hear you play when you pick up your guitar. Think of a strumming pattern. You got one? Did I get it? For most people, this is all that they have, and it's a great pattern, but if you use it constantly, you're going to bore everyone to death. So what's the solution? To collect more strumming patterns? Well, it's a start, but this will keep you stuck because you still won't understand how strumming patterns actually work. The key to strumming patterns is connecting pick strokes with the beats in the bar and leaving space in the right places. And this works equally well for soloing as it does for playing chords. Once my clients understand this, they're able to create their own strumming patterns and create subtle variations in any song they play, which makes them sound way more interesting and dynamic, like they've been playing for years longer than they actually have. All you have to do is put your downstrokes on the downbeats like this. And then throw in upstrokes between every downstroke like this. Simply leave out some of the beats and you get a heap of variations. Now here's the secret to making them sound great. Keep your hand in motion so it's following the beat. That way your down and up strokes line up correctly, which will make your playing feel natural and effortless. But this is just a starting point. It's not enough to rely on the arm movement to keep in time, because eventually it will become a crutch that will hold you back. You must also dial in your internal rhythmic clock. So how do we do that? Now I'm going to introduce you to an object that is like kryptonite for most guitarists. This thing here is called a metronome. The reason why the metronome causes so much fear is that it tells you the truth, and the truth is not always pleasant. You might discover that your timing isn't as rock solid as you thought. So let's start by setting the metronome to 80 BPM. Now play downstrokes on every beat to get used to how it feels to sync up with the click. Next, we add the upstrokes, trying to place them right in the center between every click. Once you feel solid with that, add the counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Let's ditch this note and start mixing it up. And finally, we can start leaving some gaps in the rhythm, just like we did earlier with the strumming. But the key here is to make sure that every downstroke still lines up with the click and every upstroke goes in between. People always assume that this is harder if the metronome is set to a fast tempo, but it's actually the opposite. Because when it's slow, there's so much room for error. Try it out for yourself. Once you can do that, you're ready for a key ingredient that separates the pros from the beginners and intermediates. Years ago, I remember a bass player talking to me about how varying the length of the notes made his bass lines groove harder. At the time, I had no idea what he was on about. But one day it clicked for me, and I finally understood that note length has a massive impact on how good your playing feels. Take this idea for example. Now check this out. Hear the difference? All I did differently in that second example is lift my left hand off the fretboard to shorten some of the notes. But to my ear, the difference is like night and day. What do you think? Here's a more subtle example of varying note length in a guitar solo. To me, varying the note length makes the solo sound a lot more refined than making every note short or long. So now you've got your strumming patterns, timing, and note length dialed in, but there's still something missing that we haven't talked about. That's the difference between just playing the notes and adding dynamics. That means varying the volume by playing some notes louder, some softer, and accenting certain notes in phrases. And many guitarists, even advanced players, barely use dynamics at all. The biggest reason? High gain distortion. The more gain you use, the more compressed your tone gets, which kills your dynamics. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't use tons of distortion, but it does squash your dynamic range and forces you to create interest in other ways. So let's have a look at some of the ways that we can create some dynamic variation. We can use accents, which means to hit certain notes so they pop out in your phrases. We can use crescendos, which means building the volume throughout a phrase. And decrescendos, which means to pull back the volume. And here's what happens if we mix all those things together. All of these elements of rhythm don't really appear separately like this in actual music. But the benefit of separating them is that you can target specific areas that need the most work, which is exactly the type of thing I do with my clients in my coaching program. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, get in touch through the link below. Now, to really put your rhythm work into practice, you're going to need the right notes. Want to know exactly what notes fit your chord progressions best? Click the link here to find out, and I'll see you over there.